Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. And this week we're doing digital illustration here on the stream. So it's all about drawing and painting. Oh, looks like there's no sound. Hello, can you hear me?
We got you.
Okay, great. Yeah, we've got a full day. We've had a full day, so let's take a quick look at the schedule. This is our last stream of the day with Andy, but in the morning we had Dave Arcade, Tracy Ching, and Aldo Crusher, Just Crushed It with Christine. And this will be the schedule for tomorrow as well as Thursday. So tune on in for the remaining 2 days of the week. And, as always, we have a daily challenge today. So if you're just joining us now, you can find information about this in the challenge tab, which is next to the chat. We are celebrating the start of Inktober. So as per Inktober, we are going with today's theme of Tranquil. You'll make an illustration based around the theme of Tranquil and then submit it. Then Andy and I will review it in about an hour. And the winner will get to win a free year subscription of Adobe CC. So very exciting. And then on day 3, we'll have portfolio reviews. So make sure to tune in for that. And we'll also have a fun chat giveaway in 30 minutes. So, welcome back, everyone. Like I was saying, we're here with Andy. Andy, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, so Andy's come from Detroit.
Yeah, just flew in from Detroit yesterday. I basically kind of, for the most part, am working usually for a lot of gallery work, and I do some fashion illustration as well.
Yeah.
And so...
your work is beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I've got your Insta up.
Thank you.
But it's really great to take a look at. Maybe we could throw it up on the screen really quick. But some awesome work. And you were mentioning that you mainly do a lot of analog work.
Yeah, so I love working with pastels, charcoal, acrylics, gouache. I usually throw it all on there. Sometimes even oils. And I kind of bounce around. I think the fun of working analog is almost just pacing back and forth in my room and just trying to figure out, okay, how can I put certain materials together to make the work that I want to do? And so I find a lot of gratification just in that process and just trying to figure out what new way I could go about a new piece.
Yeah, it's so beautiful.
Thanks.
And Val, shout out to Val who says, "Oh my God, this is gorgeous. I can't handle this." I agree.
Thanks.
So today you are taking it digital, you mentioned? Okay.
Yeah, so today I'm thinking I'm going to start a fashion illustration piece where from a New York Fashion Week show I went to, actually New York Bridal Week show I went to last year in New York. And so I took a few shots when I was there and I was drawing. Today I thought I'd do a digital piece of one of those scenes that I shot. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're just using normal brushes in Photoshop?
Pretty much, yeah. So I'm thinking I'll start off with pencil just to draw it out, and then I'll go in there with some oil brushes later on. I don't know whether today or tomorrow, and put in some color.
Yeah.
And we'll go from there. I'm just gonna probably, feel it out as I go and see maybe what I can do with the background. We'll go from there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so exciting.
Hey.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what your process is like,
Sure,
especially
sure.
digitally.
Get started on it.
Yeah. And to everyone in the chat who's saying art goals, yeah, I totally agree. Art goals. Sweet.
Okay.
So, just as a reminder, we're going to set up a countdown for our giveaway, which will happen in 30 minutes, and the winner will receive 100 free stickers from Sticker Mule. Yeah. So just starting off, you are beginning with a gray background?
Basically, yeah, just a soft gray. Just kind of pretty much doing the gesture here, and then we'll go from there. I always like to just kind of feel it out with just some quick marks here. Okay, cool. It's all good. Here we go. And then go from there, and then I could then decide based on that gesture what's off and what's on, and then start going in with my much more confident lines.
Oh, interesting. That is so cool. Gabrielle wants to know if you create your own brushes when working digitally.
I don't. I just go in. I'm a very simple guy like that. I just kind of go in with what's already there and work on top of that.
Yeah. It looks like right now you're just using one of the default.
Yeah, soft brush,
Soft
just
fuzzy
because.
brushes.
Yeah, and then I go in with a pencil, and then start going into straight painting. Admittedly, I mean, I go about it the very similar way as I do with my, traditional work. I just kind of, you can't make any mistakes, so you just kind of go in there with a little bit of a, gesture, and then just build on top of that.
Oh, sweet. And to answer your question, Paul, there is a special promotion for Adobe Live with Sticker Mule. So even if you don't win the 100 sticker pack with the giveaway, you can still get 10 free stickers if you go to stickermule.com/Adobe Live, and the link is right above. Yeah.
Oops. Try that one more time. There you go.
So I noticed that you are using some reference. Is that something that you commonly use in your work, and what is your process for that usually?
Yeah, so, it really depends on time. Sometimes I'll have a model just kind of posing in front of me. I'll just draw it from life. Other times, if it's much larger illustration, or if it's at a show like this, especially if it's like a runway show where this person is walking down the runway, you only have a few seconds to work with.
Yeah.
I'll just kind of capture a picture and then kind of, draw it on my own time afterwards. If you're backstage or at a presentation where there's a model just kind of sitting there for a longer period of time, or, you could have a little bit more time with them, then I'll draw it from life. I have this big Moleskine sketchbook, or in the case of you could have your iPad or something, and just kind of quickly sketch it out. Yeah.
Sweet. Sweet. To answer people's questions, it is 10 free stickers with the special Adobe Live code. Gabrielle, I'm not sure to answer your question if it's each day. You might just want to check if there's like any details on that site. How did you get into fashion illustration in the first place?
So I was doing a lot of my gallery work, and I kept on seeing I had a few friends that were, photographers in New York, and I always see their stuff up on Instagram, and I was always saying, I could probably draw that one day. And one day I had a show in New York, and I had a couple of drawings at a show. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be in New York to be at the opening. I might as well just reach out to a few of the brands that I kind of really liked their outfits for. And so I emailed one of them saying, hey, can I just kind of stop by and show you my portfolio? And they're like, yeah, let's come on in and
Cool.
meeting. And I went in there with the intention of just asking, hey, can I just borrow a couple of pieces to pose my own models with, and I could do like a big painting of it. And they're like, actually, just come back in a few weeks. We'll put you backstage at our show. I was like,
Wow.
okay. So I just pretended like I knew what I was doing. I was like, oh yeah, bring me in. Yeah, I knew what to do, and just kind of figured it out from there.
Cool.
It was a crazy story because I brought like a big portfolio over from to fly into JFK Airport with, and actually lost it for a while. So I was hunting it down. My meeting was like 45 minutes, and it took them forever to find it in the back area, and they finally found it and printed it out. I was just running through JFK, running to get to New York, but it worked out in the end. Yeah.
So you checked in your portfolio and the airline lost it.
Yeah, they lost it for
Oh
a
my
while.
gosh.
It happened. It was in JFK, with me. It's just I don't know, somewhere in the luggage they couldn't find it. So, but yeah, it worked out. But it was
Yeah.
maybe in the future I'll ship it instead or something like that.
Yeah. And you're also using some reference on your iPad, which we can see here behind. It's a picture of a model that I'm assuming you took at this
I took
bridal.
it. Yeah, I think so. I had an easel set up and I was drawing it from life, but in between I ran around and shot some shots in different lighting just so I could have it for the future.
Yeah.
And so it was totally in the benefit. Yeah, this is from a presentation they have. They have a bridal week and a fashion week, and depending on what they want to achieve, they might have just a runway show, or a presentation where they have them kind of standing on one of the like platforms all throughout. And the idea is that more people could just walk by and take a look at those. It's just that it's a longer show, it's like an hour, 2 hours. But it's definitely more beneficial if you have an easel up, or like I said, you can bring your iPad and just draw them from life in this way, and they just kind of stay in one place.
Yeah. When you're at these presentations, do you feel pressure to create stuff on the spot, or are you kind of creating work in progress work that you'll like finish later?
I think it's more you're just doing finished pieces at the spot. They're going to be much more quicker and gestural. And so, and you just got to act like you're confident about it by, because you're going to have a big crowd around you just constantly kind of just watching over you. But, I mean, you get used to it. After a while, you forget that they're there.
It's a bit performative.
Yeah.
Interesting. For those who are just tuning in right now, we are with Andy Espinoza. He's making a really beautiful fashion illustration using Adobe Photoshop. And this is our 4th stream of the day. We will be here today, tomorrow, and Thursday with 4 amazing artists who are all doing digital illustration.
And right now, I'm just doing a gesture. Pretty much, I'm just kind of, none of these lines are going to be there in the end. I'm just kind of just winging it, and then I'm just going to then actually do my drawing on top of this just to see like that line is way off.
So, and what is your like intention behind this like initial first pass?
It's just to kind of get some ideas down to work on top of, and not necessarily try to make a precious drawing per se. It's just to kind of throw it down, just as kind of a small guide to work on top of.
Cool. I'm also really interested to hear about what all of you are working on. So if you're working on any interesting projects, maybe you're doing Inktober, maybe you're working on the Creative Challenge, the Tranquil Inktober prompt, let us know in the chat and we'll talk about it. Have you ever considered doing fashion design yourself?
I haven't. No, it's maybe something I could try one day. No, it's not something I really kind of dug into just yet.
Cool. Great. So you can also now see Andy's reference, which is right up there next to his Photoshop canvas. Wow, Tom is working on a concept illustration for an indoor water park in Taiwan. And Michael says he's working on the Tranquil illustration. And I believe in you. I think you can finish. Where is everyone tuning in from? So we're in San Francisco right now. It is the middle of the afternoon. It's kind of rainy today, sadly. The first rainy day in a while. What's your setup like at home?
Usually I have my computer and like a big easel right next to it, and I just have a few shelves next to it with all my art supplies, and I just kind of run back and forth, usually between the two. And so whether I'm doing something traditionally or digitally, I could switch back and forth rather easily that way.
Oh, cool. It looks like we've got a lot of people from some fun places. I see Michael from South Africa, Kansas City, Miami.
Yeah.
Shout out to everyone.
I lived in Kansas City and Miami.
Oh, really? Right.
Yeah.
So you were saying you tend to hop around
every couple of years. Yeah, 2 to 3 years. I always try to. I get the urge to move someplace new.
That's inspiring.
Yeah, I just I don't know. Maybe I just get bored very easily or something. But I guess I like to see as much as I can and just get. I see it as just always jumping onto a new adventure.
Yeah.
Might as well. Yeah.
Do you feel, is it like difficult to create like new communities, whether that's a friend community or? artistic community, social community, like that kind of support system?
At first, it's always a little difficult, but eventually you just meet more and more people as you're going along, and I think that's the scary part for a lot of people moving, is that they don't know anyone
Yeah.
or as many people in that area, and the big factor of the unknown.
Yeah.
They don't know what's gonna come, and so it's like almost a mist or
Yeah.
a fog of what's the future holds. But I think that's a part of just going on new adventures. It's just diving into that unknown and seeing how you come out at the end, and you just grow from it. At least that's the way I've always seen it, is that you grow from those experiences and find yourself in situations you never thought you would be, but by adapting to it, I don't know, you grow from it. So at least that's what I always tell myself whenever I'm making those big changes.
Yeah.
Always scary though.
Yeah, it definitely is pretty scary, I think. I would be worried about how being isolated would affect my creative output. Like if I'm not stimulated socially or something, or yeah. So to answer some questions about Andy's setup that he mentioned, I think you said that you tend to work a lot between analog and digital and just kind of flip between.
Yeah. So anything from even just using Photoshop to adjust, pieces and kind of plan out the process for how I'm going to go about pieces, to if I wanted to just kind of go in straight to maybe just doing a line drawing, analog, and then kind of scan it in and do the rest on Photoshop. I go back and forth a lot, but lately I've done a lot of analog, and I just kind of been focusing in on that. But I'm ready to jump back into Photoshop some more.
Cool. Yeah, we're getting some questions about like how you have figured out some things technically with proportion and marking the spots where like the eyes are and the nose are. But I'm also curious, like, how did you learn all these skills technically? Is that something you went to school for, or you self-taught, or job?
I went to a school in Florida for 4 years, and then I went to another school in Kansas City called the Illustration Academy, and was there for about 2 years. I mean, it's a summer program, but they used to have a year-long program, and I just stuck around and just kind of, really kind of were mentored by some of my famous, favorite illustrators back in the day.
Really?
And so I say back in the day, it was not that long ago. It was like, 4 or 5 years ago. And so after I kind of did all that, I, just went off on my own and kind of did a lot of gallery work after that. Just focused in on that before jumping into fashion illustration.
Mm-hmm. That's exciting.
But a lot of drawing from life, just that's basically my education right there. And then looking at illustrators, I mean, some of my favorites are, there's so much. But anyways, painters back in, the late 1800s, looking at Sargent, Sorolla, Andrew Zorn, and then looking at, illustrators in the 40s and 30s, like, Norman Rockwell, J.C. Leyendecker, Mead Schaefer, just a bunch of those artists I just, like, always look towards as far as learning how to compose pictures. Some of my favorites.
Yeah. It's cool to watch you kind of like etching away almost with this like piece. It's very meditative.
Yeah, again, I'm just not necessarily concerned about my marks or anything. I'm going to be working on top of this. I'm just kind of going to start looking at the drawing itself right now.
And what are things that you're trying to look for, like put down, like what are these?
So pretty soon, like I'm going to start looking at just the proportions in general, and then I'm going to start making kind of the line work that I really want. So, line quality, looking at making one stroke for the line instead of just having all these etchings right here. And then I'll go in with color just a little bit.
And just a reminder, we've got 9 minutes until our chat and win countdown. For those who are just joining us now, the countdown is to win a 100 sticker pack from Sticker Mule. And the way that you enter is when we cue the giveaway, you just have to say anything in the chat, and then you're automatically entered, and then a winner will be selected at random. So make sure if you want to win that to get in on the chat. And we also have a daily creative challenge going on that we'll look at in about 40 minutes. So if you want to enter that, all you have to do is go to the challenge tab next to the chat. And it has all the info there. But basically, because we are in day 2 of Inktober, the prompt is to use today's Inktober theme, Tranquil, and create an illustration around the concept of Tranquil. And then we'll be looking at the submissions together. So make sure you get it submitted before the deadline. And then finally, we are also going to have a portfolio review in 2 days on Thursday. So if you want to have your portfolio reviewed by Andy in particular, make sure to tune in during his stream. Then if you want it to be reviewed by another artist in particular, make sure to submit it during then. And also thank you to Val and to our moderators for posting up the links to Andy's Behance and website, which some people have been asking for in the chat. Kevin wants to know if you always paint details early in the process, or if you kind of speed up this gestural part of it and then add it in later.
It goes back and forth sometimes, but oftentimes, usually I just go in with the gesture, and then once I get it up to a place that I'm happy with, then I just go back in and start adding in the detail and color on top of that. It jumps back and forth. It's depending on my mood at the moment.
Cool. Yeah, if any of y'all have questions for Andy, feel free to ask in the chat, and we'll do our best to answer some of them for you. And so do you do this process as well when you work analog, like on a separate piece of paper?
Yeah. So usually I just go in with charcoal, on paper, and then I'll, work it out with charcoal before I apply any color with it. So, any different media. So if I decide to throw acrylic on top or pastel, it'll look not great at first, but then you kind of build it up on top of that with that second material.
Mm-hmm. We're getting an interesting question from Kevin asking, what would you recommend to beginners who perhaps want to get into fashion illustration or just maybe in general?
So as far as the actual drawing itself, I would definitely recommend kind of really looking into making quality line work. I think there's a lot of folks who kind of are hesitant about their line, if they're making, let's say, those quick sketches from, either from life or from reference. And then, they want to be very confident with those strokes, almost like calligraphy, where you're just making it just, maybe limiting your lines to just like a handful. And that way you could practice maybe doing one long stroke for the back, or, for the gown or dress or outfit, just within a couple strokes, and being mindful whether you're keeping your lines, thick or thin, or if you're going over your line a little too often. And then once you kind of got that down, as far as how you could approach the field, I just say, find the things that really interest you. Don't necessarily force yourself to draw things that you aren't particularly that interested in, just because I think you'll then have a stronger passion for it, and you'll be much more excited for the work to do. So maybe seek out, as far as drawing, the things, the brands, or just the type of outfits that you like, whether it's maybe even period pieces. Build on top of that and just keep on drawing those, and then go from there. As far as putting your work out there, I mean, definitely social media is a great place. At least that's where I've got a few opportunities of just posting it up there and people just finding it and then they just kind of reach out to me. So definitely post consistently, those works.
Okay. That's cool. Do you have like a artistic community or like circle of maybe friends who like share work too, or is it you just make it and then share it online?
Yeah, I just make it and share it online. I mean,
cool.
you
Okay.
definitely find people that are also interested in the same thing and they're following you and they're just kind of responding back to you, and that way you could make a little community that are all interested in the same thing.
Yeah, sweet. Ooh, cool. We're starting to see some of the collar in the reference photo that you're sketching in. So just as a reminder, we have our countdown at the bottom of the screen right here. And we have just under 3 minutes for you to potentially win a sticker mule pack. Wow, we've got some like really great questions in the chat. I guess people are just really curious about your workflow and how you kind of set up your artistic space and your routine. But Hey Yoon wants to know if you have a routine to help you focus on your work, and how does your workday usually start?
Okay, so I'll admit I'm kind of a more afternoon night guy, and so in the morning I always kind of divide up my time to just answering emails and running errands, and that way I always have the rest of my day kind of open. I don't know. How about you? How do you kind of run your day? Do you like to do things in the morning? You're a morning person, or you're more of a night? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. I am also an illustrator, independent. I've been living here in San Francisco for the last 4 years. And my current balance is about like 75% client work and then 25% self-initiated work, whether that's for like a show or something I'm trying to explore personally, personal side project. So because of that, I'm pretty tied to a normal work schedule.
Yeah.
Some of my clients are on the East Coast, so I often will have like pretty early morning, like 8 a.m., 9 a.m. calls. And I try to have more of my calls like staggered and meetings staggered on one day. So I usually have like Friday be my social out and about day. And then hopefully I can at minimum have like weekday and Saturday afternoons to be pure art and like working. And then everything else is like centered around the business of art. Yeah. Do you also have like do you have like an agent, or do you like do all that?
I just do it all on my own, which is unfortunate. I mean, that's why there's so much time spent on emails all that. Like this weekend I'll actually fly in New York to do like a workshop.
Cool.
And I mean, to put that together, it took forever,
right,
admittedly.
Right.
But, there's also some benefits to the fact that you have a little bit more control and all that, but just for me personally. But, other than that, I mean, as far as my setup at home, I usually kind of spend my day, like a good portion of it, just either kind of sketching in my sketchbook about new ideas for new pieces I like to do. I spend a lot of time with that, and then the process work, and then planning out, the colors and the materials I would use to kind of get some of those ideas down, and then from then on, I'll just kind of spend the rest of the day all the way to the late night, just kind of working on a single piece. I can't really bounce around between pieces. I don't leave it half finished and then jump to something else. I just want to take that one piece to finish. I don't know, that's just my mentality.
Yeah, I like to do like one main piece that I'm working on and have like a few. Oh, now it's time for the challenge giveaway. We'll come back to that conversation. Okay. But you can tell based on... Back. We are here with the challenge, the chat and win giveaway. So it starts now. Let's get in those chat entries. And oh, congratulations to Michael Roos. You win a 100. Oh, the winner will win a 100 sticker pack from Sticker Mule. And basically to submit, all you have to do is enter something in the chat, and then we will randomly pick someone. Yeah. So, yeah. Oh, yay. Congratulations to Fernando Fernandez. And also congratulations, Michael, from the previous stream. You each get 100 stickers, so that's very exciting. And if you didn't win the Chat and Win giveaway today, you can still enter tomorrow. We'll have a Chat and Win in each of the 4 streams. And you can also go to stickermule.com/Adobe Live, and you'll be able to get 10 free stickers rather than 100. So that's a pretty good starter pack. Yeah, congratulations. So for those who are just joining us, we just did our Chat and Win giveaway, the last one of the day. And we're here with Andy, who is creating a beautiful fashion illustration in Photoshop based on this reference image. And we have been chatting about indie life, art life, routine, process. Yeah. What is like the balance for you between you know, work that you're known for and work that clients will come to you for versus, you know, pushing yourself and experimenting with new stuff? Since it seems like you produce like a pretty high volume of work, like just looking at your Instagram.
Yeah. There we go. You know, you'll get requests to do like, you know, work that you did, you know, a year or 2 years ago. And it's always kind of a balance of like going back to those works. And so, I don't know, it varies, you know, where if I'm feeling in the mood as far as I'm willing to do all that work. Why isn't this opening? Okay. There you go. I'll figure it out. But
Maybe you could do the arrow keys. Oh, never mind.
okay. So I could go back to some of those if I'm feeling in the mood for it. Otherwise, if it's like an issue where, and maybe you come across this where, you know, clients are asking you to do works from like, you know, several years ago, are you able to go back and kind of do those same works, or do you evolve?
Yeah, do you want to?
Yeah, and so like I'm always trying to evolve, like you know, some of the charcoal work with you know, maybe some of the printmaking I used to do back in the day. I find myself that I can't necessarily go back to that, you know, anymore, and it's just maybe because I'm just not that person or whatever. So, you know, if I get a request like that, maybe I'll have to say, you know, I'm past that at the moment. But other times, you know, if I feel like it's still in me, I'll go back into it. So it's kind of a back and forth, you know, with that.
Cool. I'm curious to know if any of y'all in the chat are also indie and what that balance is for y'all between like your personal work that's maybe more exploratory versus client work and like work that you are maybe known for or have more of a reputation for. Oh, Michael wants to know if you sell any of your illustrations as prints.
I have in the past. I don't right now, but not at the moment. But I have in the past. It's usually, oftentimes, just finding a good print shop for it, for all that.
It sounds like Grace is working on a portrait that may have to wait until after Inktober. And I'm also curious if any of you all in the chat are doing Inktober. So it looks like you've started to put down more colors and tones. What are you focused on now? Is it something different?
Yeah, I'm going to start. So I'm starting to refine the drawing just a little bit. And as I'm going, I'm going to start putting in a little bit of the values that I'm seeing. And so the idea is just to keep it to just 3 values: dark, mid-tone, and then light.
Oh, cool.
And refining as I go. I always go extremely loose. I'm not necessarily concerned about the overall drawing. Maybe that makes me a little bit slower artist than others who just kind of get it down right away. But I've always thought of it as just kind of a process of where you're just putting down lines as you kind of see it. You build it off very, almost abstractly, and then you kind of go in and tighten it up just a little bit throughout the process.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'll start throwing in color on top of this.
Voodoo Val says that you're doing Inktober, and by that it means starting Inktober, sticking with it for 2 days, and then giving up. That's funny. And for those who are just joining us, our challenge submission is in 20 minutes. So you can find all the info for that in the challenge tab next to the chat. And the theme is tranquil. So it's all about making an illustration that is centered around the tranquil theme, submitting it, and then we'll take a look at it all in 20 minutes. After that, the winner will be selected and announced during the first stream of the day tomorrow with Dave Arcade and Christine. So if you want a chance to win a free 1-year subscription of Creative Cloud, make sure to submit. And we will also be doing another challenge in each of the 4 streams tomorrow. Ooh, Paul wants to know, Andy, what is the most experimental medium that you've used for your work?
I've thrown... for analog, I'm thinking I've thrown in, they call it Russian sauce. It's what they use at the Repin Academy in Russia. And then I've kind of mixed that in with like etching ink and just kind of see what kind of reaction it has gone. And it's actually pretty neat.
Yeah.
And then you throw in some water on there and like gold etching ink or just regular ink. And sometimes it just kind of doesn't want to mix together at all. And it creates kind of some interesting effects that way.
So is this sauce like colored, or is it just like an ink?
It's like a pastel mixed with crayon. It's a very odd consistency.
Interesting.
And so you throw water on top of that, and it is like tries to separate in a way, and it gets you some cool effects. And so I've kind of mix experiment with that, and then once it dries, I just kind of scat it in, and you could kind of draw on top of that sometimes, or just kind of keep on going on top of it.
Mm-hmm. What are some things that you're excited about right now, like in terms of projects and things you're working on?
I think just me personally, some of the workshops I'm putting together for the second half for the next few months are just pretty fun. I'm going to Europe next month to teach a 2-day workshop in Germany, and I've never kind of been out there myself.
Yeah.
And so just that in itself is like pretty fun. Something I'm looking forward to. Otherwise, I think I'm going to be doing some paintings where I'm mixing in my pastels with oils. And so it takes some process where you got to put down, you got to break apart where you put down maybe acrylic or gesso in certain areas and then paint oils on there and then pastel in a separate area. So you're just kind of mixing and matching there. And then you could scan that in and just kind of do some finished work on top of that on Photoshop if you wanted to. Just for sharing. But yeah, for the most part, that's kind of what I'm looking forward to.
Cool.
Next.
Can you tell us about the workshops that you're planning? And
yeah, so this weekend I'm doing my first red-eye flight to New York. I've never done that. But I'm flying to New York to kind of teach a workshop there. It's just something I put together myself.
okay.
And we're going to have like a runway model, and I'm going to have 2 gals from Marquesa kind of posing.
Cool.
And then we're going to have a ballet dancer posing for the group to draw from life. So that should be a lot of fun. And then the one in Munich, Germany, I'm doing like a portrait drawing, 2-day workshop. So be showing them how I kind of go about with pastels, and then, using just warm and cool colors for like the face, and then, doing a representational drawing for with pastels on there. So Yeah, that should be pretty fun. And I know a couple other ones, one in Austin and another one in New York in December.
That's
So it's
exciting.
really what I'm looking forward to. It's just a new experiences pretty much for the most part.
How do you normally structure your workshops? Are you like teaching, specific lessons, or are you just like, okay, here's the setup now, like everyone free draw, or?
Yeah, so I'll do demos, just kind of showing them how I go about, a certain aspect. So let's say the fashion one, the first day I'll do a demo on my head drawing and how I do it in pastels. Then the second day I'll show them how I do it with the gown.
Yeah.
But in between then, then afterwards I'll let them kind of work with it on their own. And so I'll give them like reference, or we'll have a live model posing and they have to try that technique with it. And so it's kind of going back and forth on that. And I don't know, I feel like it's best not just to, because when I watch someone kind of demo, from live sitting there, it could get long very quick. And so I like to break it up where I do the demo and then give them a break where they're trying out what I just did.
Yeah.
And then we'll come back and continue on to the second phase of what I just kind of showed. So it's a lot of back and forth. That way they're getting involved, and it's not like they're just sitting there for one long session and then that's the end of the day,
Right. And there might be people doing that same thing on the stream now. Like they might be watching you
Right.
and like the process that you're going through now with like Photoshop and yeah. So right now you're, for those who may have just joined, you are just laying down some like values.
Yeah, some of the basics, and we're going to start going into the drawing just a little bit more here. How much time do we have?
We have
Oops,
about
keep on doing
50 minutes.
that. Okay.
Yeah. And so do you have like a specific goal or anything, for like what you're trying to accomplish here, or?
Just getting the drawing down. I mean, I think drawing has always taken the longest for me.
Okay.
I've always been, I don't know, maybe I just take longer than most people in that. If I'm doing it from life or whatever, then, I'll go about it quickly. But I'm doing from reference, whatever. I just really try to take my time and go about it in a very slow pace. And then the idea is just to get the drawing down, before doing anything else. Just because if your drawing isn't right, then I've always felt it like you're just putting lipstick on a pig on top of that. There's not going to be any point in putting any color or painting on top of it. You just want to take your time and get that drawing down.
Yeah.
Which I find it the most integral. So I teach part-time at a college in Detroit, and with the students, they want to rush through it and get through the fun stuff of rendering or putting paint down, and I just tell them, no, take your time with the drawing, just because it's the most important aspect. If your drawing's wrong, then it doesn't matter what colors you put on top. It doesn't matter what paint, it's still gonna look not right. Yeah, I always just try to take my time with the drawing.
Take your time. What are like the steps after this usually for you, after you've kind of finished this initial drawing?
Then I'll start putting down colors. So like I'll just do like overlay, or using multiply just to put the colors in there, and then I just go straight in with maybe the oil brush. Usually it reminds me of real oils, so I'll go straight in and start rendering it out through there.
Oh, some people in the chat would like to know what school in Detroit that you teach at.
I teach part-time at the College for Creative Studies.
Oh, cool. That's what some people guessed.
Yeah.
That's what Steven and Gabrielle had guessed. So,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, so each semester there I always teach a different class. Usually, like right now I'm teaching a figure painting and drawing class, well, for freshmen and one for sophomore. In the past I've taught fashion illustration and editorial. There's just always a new class each semester.
And just make sure that if you would like to enter the challenge, that you get your submission in within the next 15 minutes. And we'll be reviewing the final submissions of the day. Were there other general industries that you had wanted to explore earlier in your career, or had it always been like fashion, editorial?
No, so like it's never, fashion was just something that kind of came along. Again, like I mentioned earlier, just kind of, I saw it as an opportunity. I just jumped into it. I never thought I'd see myself in that at all.
Yeah.
But I think when I first was like in high school, I wanted to be a concept artist. I was like, I wanted to do video games and all that. And then when I went to college and I picked up a brush, and tried oils for the first time. It just changed my world. And so I always just wanted to. I was asking people all over the school, like, pose for me, come over here, And so I was just drawing large paintings all the time, or painting large oil paintings all the time. And I just started submitting them to different galleries across the country.
Cool.
As a junior and a senior in college, and they were getting accepted. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna stick with this for a while. So I don't know. I guess I'm open to being flexible as far as what might come. So, like, for instance, I've kind of done ballet as well, where I just knock on doors, and I'm just kind of emailing different dancers in different places. So I managed to get into the American Ballet Theater in New York.
Cool.
Got into the studio, and I just was posing some of the one of the dancers there. Very Degas-esque, as far as the thinking, but it was fun, and I think I liked that idea of just kind of going out there and seeing what could happen. And so seeing who I could meet, or different areas that I don't know anything about. So I didn't know anything about fashion, I didn't know anything about ballet, but I was able to kind of meet them and learn about that and just do research, before going off and doing so. And it kind of brings you into a different world that you just never expected yourself to be in.
Yeah. So you didn't start painting. You never painted oils before college, you said?
Right. So
Oh,
I
cool.
painted, sophomore year of college was like the first time I ever tried oils.
Wow.
And pastel I only started trying for like the last 2 years. About a year and a half, 2 years is like I was forced to learn pastels because I was doing charcoal drawings at one of the fashion shows, and that wasn't going to work. Just doing everything black and white. So I was like, okay, I'll force myself to let me try pastels and gouache and see if I could make it work. And so I just found a method to make it all come together for that. And it's just, again, I guess I feel that, it's a journey. You find yourself in different places as opposed to just doing the same thing over and over and over again. You are experimenting, either with materials or even the subject matter, and you see where that goes. And as an artist, you just grow through those experiences, as opposed to just sitting still all the time. I just couldn't do that.
It is like I always say that I feel like my relationship with art is like a real relationship, in that like I give a lot to it.
Yeah.
And it's not clear what I will receive, but I always receive from it. And it's like almost like a law of gravity. Like, if you put in the work, you will receive, but maybe it's not clear what you will get out of it immediately, but you will receive something and learn and grow.
Definitely. Have you, in your own personal work, have you seen like you're changing throughout the years as far as what you've explored?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I was self-taught. I went to business school for college, and after that, I started working as a product designer in tech at Dropbox, actually. So pretty different from drawing and painting every day.
Definitely.
But while I worked at Dropbox, I became an illustrator, and just going from being a very tech-based illustrator to more of like a general illustrator with like a very, whimsical and feminine and like flowy style, I guess, from like where I started, which was like drawing stuff like very rigid, vector type of illustrations, line art. That has only been like 5 years, and it's been a crazy journey. So yeah, but I'm actually really curious, since you mentioned you just like fell in love with oils and all that in college. Like, for you, what was this, something you just could pick it up and like run with it, or like, because I think it's very intimidating for people in the beginning when you're not as good as you can be or want to be.
Yeah.
But you also have to like balance that with the reality of like making money or like having a job or something. So like, what's been your balance? What was your balance with that?
So definitely, when you're in school, I always encourage you to throw yourself into different media that you never thought you would. And even if it seems frustrating at first, and I think it's always frustrating to try something,
Yeah.
For the first time.
Yeah.
And it's never going to come out the way you hope it does. It's never going to come out that great. And you got to get past that. You got to almost accept that it's not going to work out.
Yeah.
And fight through it. Now, there may be medias that you just realize, I just don't like it. But for the most part, I think it just takes time to kind of get a handle of them before calling it quits. You really got to, take your time. It's not going to work out right away.
Yeah.
As far as like when you're later on in the game, let's say you're, in your career and you want to try something new, but you're worried about that deadline. Is that what you're referring to, or
maybe,
whether it's going to work out for a client?
Yeah, maybe you're like, I'm going to do this like Russian sauce
Yeah.
style from now on everything. And it's not clear to your clients, like, oh, okay, like, I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
You know, that's a huge risk, financially, probably.
Probably, yeah.
And stability-wise. But then maybe creatively, that's, like, awesome for you. Like, how would you balance that kind of experimental approach with?
I wouldn't. I mean, there might be a time where you're just on a time crunch, like maybe you just apply it into a certain little area of your illustration, and that way you could kind of give it a test. I will always encourage it that you just do a little test on the side. You know, like I have a friend who did a book, and he wasn't necessarily sure about what the media he was going to use. He did all the prep work for it, and then he just spent one day where he just had like several pieces of paper, and he tried like a new technique on all of them just to get it all the way for like at least a day or a few hours. And it might be a way of like, if you feel like you got a handle and you enjoy it, and then it'll work, then you could go with it. I don't know. I guess it's different for all the cases. You know, there isn't a one answer for everyone depending on your situation. But I think there is a point where you get just confident in your ability to draw and compose and all that. The media doesn't necessarily matter so much. You're confident in the fact that you could just get through it because you know all the principles of picture making. And with that alone, whether you have a branch and you're just etching it into something, or you have very expensive paints or whatever. Regardless, I think if you have those principles down of drawing, value, color, composition, then it'll all work in the end. And so it's almost like a self-esteem exercise whenever you go through it. Yes, there's a part of it where you're learning the new materials or a new technique or something, but you'll know that you're going to come out of it okay, for the most part. There's always that one example where it doesn't, but for the most part, it'll turn out okay because it's just you. It's your abilities and your perspective and viewpoint, or just voice that's going to come across regardless.
Very inspiring
so,
stuff.
I mean,
yeah.
At least that's the way I've seen it. And, maybe there's a process where you're starting a piece, you build it up to a certain point, and then you destroy it on purpose. Maybe you took it up and then you're throwing acrylic on top of it, or gesso, just to get a neat effect where it's just translucent. You're technically destroying it, but you have that confidence to be able to go back into it and maybe lift out certain areas. I think that's just part of the game. It's just your ability to go back in and just bring it back to life regardless.
Yeah, actually, I'm seeing a very fun comment from Paul, who wants to know if they could look at your sketchbook, if you could bring one in, or maybe you could like point them to one online if you post up stuff on Instagram.
Sure, yeah. I have one of my sketchbooks that I brought, not today, but like maybe tomorrow I could bring it in.
We have this little camera that we can
okay.
throw
Yeah, I didn't
on
even
it.
think about bringing it. Like,
Yeah.
I brought it to the city because I was going to bring it with me to New York. But yeah, I could bring that in and kind of show it. And then, I post everything on Instagram for the most part. So definitely, if you want to see some of the work, and you can see how I've changed. If you go back earlier to, like, just say a few years ago in Instagram, you'll see it's all black and white charcoal drawings. And then you're going to see a point where it's just more color that's involved. And that's when I hit up pastels a little bit more, just because I was kind of forced to with the fashion illustration. So I was like, okay, let me just kind of teach myself, fashion illustration. Color or pastels. And so it's just the ongoing kind of evolution with all that.
Yeah. So, Paul, and for anyone who's interested, make sure to come back tomorrow and possibly Thursday to take a look at that sketchbook that Andy will bring in.
It's all graphite. So sketchbooking is just something I always do for fun. Sitting at home, you could get so involved in the larger pieces or on Photoshop or anything, and you're going to get into these tight pieces, and you want to kind of loosen yourself up and just practice. Your quicker drawings, just to kind of get those, forced, whether 2-minute drawings, just to force yourself to see the big picture, to see the big shapes, and to get those values in quickly. It's always fun. I have a stack of sketchbooks there that I never really show to anyone. It's just for me, for my own pleasure. And then, I'll either go to a figure modeling session that's in town or in the city and draw there, or if I'm just having ideas for new pieces, I'll just kind of go in there and just quickly sketch them out.
Nice.
I think it's really important just to kind of always get in there with your sketchbook and really kind of practice with that.
Yeah. And Val also posted Andy's Instagram. So, we've got a lot of really awesome artwork that we're surrounded with. And actually, to your point about earlier about like trusting your picture making skills and trusting you will naturally.
Your voice is going to come across.
Yeah, it will like shine through. Like, I think also in a broader sense, like after you've been through a uncomfortable situation, like figuring out your voice or working through ambiguity, you learn the skill of like learning new things, if that makes sense. Like you just become comfortable being uncomfortable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you can trust your ability to be uncomfortable and navigate through like total ambiguity where you're like, I guess I'm going to do this fashion presentation, like that will serve you in like anything really.
Do you almost find that to be the same for you as far as pressure with deadlines? That do you ever get comfortable with that? Where like I'm so used to this.
Well, sometimes like deadlines are my fault. Where I was a poor product manager and I like scheduled too many of them to fall on like within like a short amount of time.
Yeah.
So sometimes that's like on me on like the business side.
Yeah.
I just like was a poor planner. But sometimes it is like artistic where you're like, oh my god, like I need to finish this like mural or something, and I have like 2 days.
I've heard many artists or some artists say that they need that deadline just to get things done. Others prefer that they're just on their own, taking their time. Some say they need that pressure of that deadline just to kind of get to that finish line. Otherwise, they'll never get it done.
I think I need to have at least one deadline in my life.
Okay.
And then I can have like 5 projects going on. But if just one of them is like an external pressure, then I can tie myself to that and then chain the other projects to that one deadline. So it could be client work or a show or something. Yeah. How about yourself?
I think a lot of times just, my own personal deadline I often put on there. But for clients, I mean, I guess I don't mind having that deadline and I'll get it done quicker that way. But I guess I get best of both worlds, where I'm just always just on my own, just whether it's creating personal work and I'll just kind of, take my time with it, and maybe tell myself a week or 2 weeks on just one large piece to, if I need a deadline, something done within 3 days, then it definitely lets me focus on it, and I can't procrastinate in any way. I can't find myself on on YouTube, just, watching videos in between or whatever. It's just like, okay, I got to hunker down, turn off the internet and just get straight to work. No distractions. Yeah, and
Anel says it's good to busy with feedback is healthy. Actually, on a bit of an unrelated note, the challenge submission deadline is in under a minute. So if you want to get into the challenge today, this is the last challenge submission of the day. So make sure you submit within the next minute, and we will be reviewing them soon. I actually had a follow-up question about your Instagram and like posting on social media. You have a pretty big Instagram following, and I'm sure you might have like some external I don't know if pressure is the right word, but like there's like eyeballs there,
Yeah.
And so I'm just wondering how you deal with that and deciding like what to make and not allowing maybe the crowds to determine.
Yeah, definitely.
Voice.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Is I hear so many artists are like hesitant about what they post up,
Yes.
and what kind of content they should make, or whether that should be influenced by that at all.
Uh-huh.
I'm not gonna lie. It does kind of, you do think about it.
Yeah,
it's always
a
in the back of
huge
your
number,
mind.
yeah.
And so you always think about like, okay, is this worth sharing, or is this whatever? But I certainly don't think it should be influenced what you're sharing. I think once you get past that point where suddenly you're thinking about whether an audience is going to enjoy what the content that you're sharing, it's a slippery slope, and suddenly you're always going to be thinking about that. So I think there is a point where, again, the confidence as far as whether what you're creating and whether the things you want to share about yourself, that's also another part of it, is like, do you want to say anything about yourself or what your thoughts are and be sincere about that. I think there is a point where you just have to set like, this is who I am and this is what I'm creating, whether an audience enjoys it or not. I mean, so be it. At least that's my perspective on it.
Acceptance.
Yeah, and I mean, just like with the artwork, right, where you're trusting yourself to create a piece, it's almost the same thing, where you're just trusting yourself, okay, you've gotten this far as what you're creating, why should you change at all? Continue on sharing what you're interested on. And again, you're evolving and you're just letting people kind of join in on that adventure.
Yeah. Sweet.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
think
the way I go about it. Do you kind of struggle with that a little bit?
I think a big part of my relationship with art has been about self-acceptance, actually.
Yeah.
And it's like accepting yourself and embracing maybe the parts of your art you might be scared to show, and that is revealing a deeper part of you that ultimately, if you accept, then you can accept in your artwork too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we can. Yeah, I feel like there's more to unpack there, but until then, we have our challenge submission. It's now over, so. If you did not get your submission in today, we will have a different challenge tomorrow, and we are looking at the hashtag Adobe Live tab. And again, the theme of the day was tranquil, so we will be looking and reviewing submissions under this theme. And then the winner will be selected after the streams today and announced during the first stream tomorrow with Christine Arth and Dave Arcade. So make sure to tune in then to figure out if you have won a year subscription of Creative Cloud. So ready to take a quick look at these?
Sure.
Yeah, so our first submission is from Amaltia. It's a very tranquil look. Just a couple colors. How do you feel looking at this piece?
I think it's great. I mean, I really like the contrast between the two colors, and I think the shapes really work out really well. And the contrast between the white and then the arm there, just to kind of pop out that arm, and so you're gonna break it up. I think that works out. The contrast between the light value of, I'm assuming, the pillow on the couch, and to the one on this one on the right here, to the face, I think really does work out really well, and it kind of pops them. It makes it an overall interesting piece. I think it's great.
I like the colors that you chose too. It's kind of a cool screen printy effect. So yeah, thank you, Amaltia. The next one is from Joshua Davis. Ooh, what an awesome, colorful bouquet. Oops. Oh, come back. Technical difficulties. Yes, we were looking at this one from Joshua Davis. So very tranquil. This one, it looks maybe like it was made using vectors. Not too sure, but it looks quite digital.
Nice. Again, I like the cool colors being in the corner.
Yeah.
And in the top left, going to the middle, just being that warm color. It's just kind of that nice separation, kind of moves your eye around.
Yeah. Wonderful. Yes, Joshua Davis, Acid Trip, indeed. I love these colors. I feel like I could just stare at this and like get lost in it, in like a hypnosis. So thank you, Joshua, for submitting. Some of these might be a little bit older. We are kind of cycling through the most recent ones, but here's one from Jose Vargas, a tranquil, hovering rock.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. I mean, I like the mark making on the floor there, the ground. And so you have a variation of the thin lines for the top and then like thicker strokes in the middle there. You definitely want those variations there just to kind of break it up as opposed to having the same line quality and thickness all throughout. So it's really nice. The break up there.
Awesome. Here's one from Lindsay Palmer. It's just some peaceful clouds against a, it looks like a, ocean or a sky that's just glittering. It's kind of have this cool like watercolor effect with like how you layered stuff in Photoshop. So that's pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah. This one's from Robiol Islam, a peaceful character doing yoga or meditating.
Great. Yeah, I like the shapes on the figure there, and just overall, it's all dependent on shape than anything else. It's almost like you're cutting out colored paper and then you're pasting it on there.
Yeah.
And if you could get a picture across or what's going on just with those shapes and just those flat colors, then you're set, you know. And then, you know, you could go on top of that. I'm not talking about this specific piece, but like you go on top of that with you know, different values or rendering and getting different edges. But it doesn't matter. This is like the overall picture. And if you can get that down, the flatness, that really works out well.
Yeah. Thank you for submitting, Robiel. Here is one from Tyrone Henry. Oh, I think, did you submit this earlier too? It's I think before it was just the rocks and the reeds, and now there's like a bird and this like Creative Cloud sun fireball in the background. So great.
Ooh, yeah. The values, the way you're separating them, so you have that silhouette in the middle, the midtones towards the background, and just kind of keeping it, you know, separated that way. I think that's always a way to go as far as keeping it, grouping your values together for each object, and that way you can kind of distinguish them a little bit easier.
Yeah, nice. We have this piece from Gabrielle, who's also been asking some great questions in the chat. So thank you, Gabrielle. With this like silver fish, reminds me of something from the rainbow fish with the metallic fins. So wonderful.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool. This is from Akmal Nori. We've got, it looks like a bunch of characters, and they're all like out and about in their day, and it's kind of this peaceful park environment.
Yeah, neat. Yeah, you know, the shapes of the trees, and then really pops out as far as the contrast, just the green and everything else. As far as the colors around it, is just kind of complementing that, so it's really nice.
Yeah, I like how whimsical the shape of the leaves are, the trees. It's kind of fun. Oh, I see. I think this is the color version, perhaps, of Tyrone's original illustration. So cool. Yeah, I like the silhouette of the bird and how you cut that out. It's like some good contrast. I think I prefer the color version to the black and white personally, but yeah.
It definitely has the colors, you know, that warm, you know, background to separate from the cool bottom of the water.
Yeah.
It's a nice separation, so you can kind of read it even easier.
Yeah. Cool. This is from Robiel. Yeah. It's a character kind of with these like Wolverine claws and maybe like more fantasy-like background, perhaps.
Yeah, I think the strongest part of this piece is that left side, that black background, you know, and just the contrast with the figure in the foreground. That sometimes you have to keep it that simple, where you just have a light object or figure on a dark space background. Mm-hmm. Even if it's so simple like that, it reads and it comes across a lot stronger that way. And so I think that really works out, that contrast between the light and the dark.
And one thing you can try to do to just like check your values really fast if you're working digitally is just throw in a desaturation layer on top of all of your colors, and so you see everything in black and white. And if you know, when you do that, things look a little muddy or there's not enough contrast, then you know in the color saturated version that maybe you need to adjust one of those, you know, two colors that are bordering each other. So yeah, it looks like we have reached the end of the submissions for this section. Thank you again for everyone who submitted all these truly delightful and tranquil illustrations. Oh, so cute. I love this. Yeah, thank you, Andy, for giving your feedbacks.
No problem,
Yeah. Michael says, "Mom, not to finish." Well, don't worry, Michael. We will still have challenges tomorrow as well, and you have plenty of opportunities to submit then too. So thank you all for submitting. Great job. The winner will be announced during tomorrow morning's 9 a.m. Pacific time session. So and we'll have another challenge tomorrow to participate in. So thank you again to everyone for your time and talents. What were we talking about earlier?
Was deadlines?
Deadlines.
Deadlines?
Deadlines. Yes, high fives all around. Agree to Joshua Davis. How How do you like, live drawing? I think you mentioned that you've done fashion drawings. Right now, what you're doing is like a bit performative in a way. I'm curious because I have also started doing more and more live drawings this year, but like, what's your experience like with that? And do you like it?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. There's a benefit to either doing more finished pieces that you're taking your time with and you're able to compose it, but there's also a great benefit to just on the spot making decisions, and you can't hesitate on that moment. You just like, okay, this is whether this is the person's wearing this or just posed in this way. I want to just go in, make these marks, and just keep on going. And those quick decision makings make some great pieces from that. And I enjoy it. I enjoy both, best of both worlds. And certainly, I've always felt like the live drawing hones you and practice is great practice for then then applying it to your much more finished illustrations. Yeah, how about you? So you said that you've kind of been diving into it.
Yeah, I just did a live drawing at Macy's, and then actually the week before, like a couple weeks ago, I did a live mural at XOXO, which is this like art design festival in Portland, and it was pretty nerve-wracking because I intentionally designed the pieces that I was making to be simpler than my usual stuff because I knew I had like a live deadline.
Yeah.
So I felt like it was more like muscle memory at that point. And I wasn't really trying to like explore a lot of like new things really.
Yeah.
Or take like a ton of risks. The risk was just like this performative element to things. Yeah. To answer your question, Akmal, the winner will be announced tomorrow morning during the first session, which is at 9 a.m. And that will be the case, through the entire week. So the winner will be always announced the following day. And to answer your question, Val, yes, it was pretty scary, but I had a painting assistant, so I think having like another person.
Yeah, I haven't tried a mural before yet, so I gotta try
Oh my
it one
God,
day.
your work would be incredible as a mural. But like, it might be kind of hard maybe to get the level of detail as a mural. But your work would be like incredible.
To try it one day. So you really enjoyed it, doing a mural?
I really enjoyed it. It was a mural installation. So part of the installation was people could write a letter to their future selves. And then we hung up all of these letters in this like really cool way all around the mural.
Cool.
So it was more like this experience, I guess, that you could walk through. And it was pretty.
You were on a ladder and everything?
I was on a ladder. It wasn't a very tall mural. It was like 8.5 feet, but it was 16 feet wide. I think that was good because it allowed me to not be on a ladder for most of the time, which is like pretty time consuming and physically taxing.
Mural is a big thing. I've seen some of the students that I've taught just want to go into muraling, and so that's their dream. And so,
wow, cool.
The idea of maybe just traveling and just kind of doing nothing but murals, it seems pretty cool.
Yeah. Do you do a lot of work with fashion magazines? That's a question from Jose.
No, it's oftentimes just with the brands themselves. Like I said, I've just kind of been doing the fashion stuff on the side, but I plan to jump in a little bit more to it. But oftentimes it's just me kind of going to their events and just kind of either being backstage or in front of the house or at the runway and just either sketching in my sketchbook from life or making bigger pieces when I go back home for the most part.
Interesting. It seems like, a very like glamorous kind of industry from, Instagram and stuff. But I'm sure there's also like a ton of behind the scenes stuff that we just don't see as consumers.
My first time going, it was so chaotic. That's the thing. When I first went, I tried watching documentaries. I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
I'm just a guy that just likes to draw and paint. And so when I went, it ended up being a lot more chaotic than I thought. People were just tripping over each other, trying to get everything that could go wrong. All the shoes are breaking. I'm like, okay, yeah. And so, I'm just with my elbows touching, just kind of trying to draw as people are just kind of trying to get in. You have photographers, with their lenses all around you. And you're just there trying to work. But again, that rapid pace kind of forces you to draw quicker and just kind of makes you have to make decisions on the spot.
Do you ever do like men's fashion, or do you find yourself mostly focusing on like
I
women's
haven't.
fashion?
I want to. I even reached out to a few of them, and I just nothing happened with it. But definitely want to try it, in the future.
Cool.
If I could give a shout out to an artist by the name of Vincent Nappy, he does a lot
Okay.
of men's fashion and inks. Beautiful stuff. If you could see it on Instagram.
Yeah.
Vincent Nappy.
Vincent Nappy.
Yeah.
Check it out for some inspo. Yeah, we're almost at the end of this stream. We've got about 10 minutes left. So I also just want to take a chance to thank you for sharing your process. It's been really cool to see.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, all I pretty much did was just kind of the drawing here, and then
Yeah, all you pretty much did was.
and then hopefully now
beautiful
next
painting.
time I'll be able to get to to the actual color.
Cool.
Next time I come back.
Yeah. If you could like recap what you did, how would you describe that?
I just started off with a gesture, and then I went back in and just started kind of rounding it out slowly. Still very much at the sketch phase here. Again, I'm kind of slow, with it, but just kind of building it up slowly, and then eventually it'll get up to a much more finished look.
Sweet. And then tomorrow you were maybe going to like try out getting in with like color?
Yeah, definitely. So I'll definitely use maybe the oil brush and go in with color just right on top of this.
That's exciting. And I think some people are also excited to see your sketchbooks potentially, or
Yeah,
the work in
I have
progress?
one sketchbook
Yeah.
that I brought. It's a lot of just portraits and stuff like that with graphites.
That's cool. It's cool to see your style and your process. I was hosting Tracy Ching, another artist, earlier today, and her work is like, she does a lot of portraiture as well. It's like pretty realistic, I would say. But she works primarily in vector, and her work is very like cross-hatching and like etching,
Oh, really?
yeah, style. So it's actually really cool to see how both of you do this like underlying, like underdrawing almost, and how you both build up your sketches because, like I said, her work is like vector based, so it's quite clean, for example. Yeah, and just to recap for today, it's been a full day of illustrators, and we have a full schedule lineup this week with 4 amazing artists. We started off with Dave Arcade, and he'll be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. with Christine Arth. Then I hosted Tracy Ching at 10:30 Pacific time, followed by Aldo Crusher with Christine again, and then it is our 4th and final stream with Andy. And we'll have this lineup both tomorrow as well as Thursday. Do you listen to music usually when you work? Or?
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, it bounces around to listening to music, movie soundtracks and things like that.
Ooh, what movie soundtracks are you jamming to right now?
So, sometimes I could get into a certain mood, and I could love listening to the Village soundtrack.
What's The Village?
It's a movie that I admit the ending is not great, but it's actually a little bit inspired by. I feel like the house in that movie is inspired by Andrew Wyeth. I believe it was like modeled after his house, but I don't know. I feel like whenever I come across fall, I always love to listen to the Village soundtrack. And so other than that, like The Fountain, I listen to all sorts of kind of soundtracks like that. And then I also listen to podcasts and
What podcast do you listen to?
as far as
Rex.
that's
so,
okay.
yeah.
There's one podcast by a video game group that just kind of talks about video games, and it's called Easy Allies.
Cool.
I'm a huge fan of theirs. So they make so much content that like I don't necessarily have time to play games, unfortunately, unless I visit my friend in Texas. But I like to keep up with it, so I'll just listen in and hear what's going on and what games came out. So it's a great way where they just kind of always releasing. Do you have any recommendations yourself?
Oh, let's see. I've been really obsessed with Brene Brown lately. She's like a person who researches vulnerability, and
Okay.
I love. Oh, thank you, Jason, who says he loves my vest. I love it too. It's very fuzzy. But yeah, I've also been listening to Robin. She's like a kind of pop artist who, like, her last album came out in 2010, and I've been waiting for 10 years. No, 2 years for this particular song of hers called Honey, and
Okay.
it just came out like 4 days ago.
Nice.
Yeah, it was like teased in one of the season finales of the TV show Girls 2 years ago, and then she just like took a while to like release it. So yeah, it is fake fur. I am vegetarian, and I used to be vegan, so I would never wear animal fur. Yeah, so I've also been. I just watched Crazy Rich Asians, the movie.
How
Yeah.
is it? I've been seeing it in the headlines. I haven't
Yeah.
watched anything.
It's a great movie. I think it's like it's a rom-com, so it depends on if that's your like style of movie or not. But as like an Asian American person, it's also very, very moving to see a fully Asian cast. So yeah, I'm kind of the same, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. I listen to a lot of podcasts and movie soundtracks. I'd like to also give a shout out to our awesome moderators. Thank you for being so quick with those links, with answering more of the technical questions. It's awesome to sort of be a part of this community with all of y'all. Thank you. Yes. So as we wrap up today, is there any final comments or things that you want to leave with the viewers?
Just thanks for coming by and asking all those great questions.
Yeah, a lot of curious,
Yeah, absolutely.
questions.
And yeah, I mean, as far as where this is going to be heading to, definitely next time I'll start going into adding color, and then be working on the dress and throwing in the background, so it should be pretty fun.
Cool. Or do you think you'll draw the full background in your ref, or are you
Oh no,
make
I'm
a
gonna
background?
I'm gonna be making it up. Yeah.
Oh, cool. That's pretty sweet. I really enjoyed talking about freelance life. So if there's any other freelancers out there, feel free to shoot over some questions or thoughts you've been having about that indie life as well.
For those of you, this is my first time in San Francisco. What would you say, like, the big things I gotta definitely see for those who might visit one day?
Oh, yeah. Well, it kind of depends on what piques your interest usually. It's like food or art.
Definitely art.
Yeah? You should go to the SF MoMA.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, hey to all the freelancers. Come back tomorrow. We'll talk about being a freelancer. So once again, thank you, Andy, for coming. Thank you to everyone for joining. Thanks to the mods. Thanks to Adobe Live. You can always catch these streams on the internet if you missed part of them. We will be back at this time tomorrow, and we'll be back at 9 a.m. with the full day. So thank you again, and have a great one.
Thank you.
Bye.
Mankind